get that mimosa. I was going to ask about that mimosa picture because I think we need to. That should be our cover photo. The mittens for mimosa mitten.
No, that's just a joke, man.
But still,
inside jokes are always fun.
Yeah, especially when you get Tyler's friends on in on it, and we're doing Margs for mittens now. Margies for mittens. Margaritas.
Oh, margaritas. What are you talking about? Kevin, how much is that coffee?
Yeah.
How many cups of coffee do you have a day?
Too many.
2.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. All right. It's just a weird time to have coffee.
Yes. Well, I usually have one for the podcast to keep myself stimulated. So,
I mean, I always have a beer, so yeah, it keeps me stimulated.
We're not stimulating enough for there, Kev.
To keep the energy up. I did buy beer, but I haven't. I had a little bit yesterday.
Nice. I mean, morning sessions, I don't have beer. Or morning podcasts.
Oh, I don't drink during podcast time. I'm weird that way.
That's whatever works for you.
Mm-hmm.
$6 points. Jeez. Yeah. We will start in about 1 minute. I did like the those jerseys they wore. I did like those.
Yeah, Germany or Canada?
Canada's, yeah. They were a bit of the kind of the old school feel.
Both were good.
Both were good. I also liked Czech Republic's too. I thought that theirs were unique.
All right.
We are live. Well, Canada joined together this Boxing Day to watch a hockey game, and a football game broke out. The game at Commonwealth Stadium, the Canadian juniors scored 2 touchdowns with 2-point conversions. The German junior team got a safety. 16-2 was the final score between as the Canada's debut World Junior performance. Day 2 of the World Juniors. Germany played yesterday and fought valiantly with Finland for a 5-3 loss. Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can, of course, I'm Kevin Olenek. You can follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey. Of course, watching live on Facebook, you can hit the like or the follow button there. Subscribe on YouTube as well, youtube.com, the Hockey Podcast. We could use some subscribers there. I'm not going to lie. We are at the Mark Messier amount of subscribers. I'd like to improve that. So there, and then, of course, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts as well. Joined by Devin. Hello, Devin.
Hello, Kev. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm doing good. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you.
Yes, all that. Sean, Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, Kevin.
Yes, yes. So, I kind of don't know where to start in a 16. Maybe I'll start here. I will share doing play-by-play in hockey. I've had to call these blowouts and be on the German end of the 16-9, these big blowouts, and they are not easy to do. So first of all, maybe this is where I really think we should start. Can we applaud the German team? This is a team that is so undermanned. Their number one goalie could not make it. Their number one defenseman could not make it. 14 players on the ice, back-to-back games. Yes, there were things that the goaltending wasn't great for Germany, sure, but this team had everything going against them. I just think I want to start by applauding the Germans for taking the time to show up, because they had an opportunity to change the schedule to make it a bit different. Not start Finland, Canada, actually go but they decided to do this and go through it. I think kudos to them for doing this. Yes, this sucks. This totally sucks, losing 16-2. It's never fun to get blown out, but kudos for them, even to try to stay in this game as or keep fighting and not quit. Which sounds weird at 16-2.
Yeah, I've been on both ends of losing and winning by that much, and it sucks either way. Winning by that much, yeah, you won, which is fantastic, but you really do want to have a bit of a fight on the other end of the stick here. And it's too bad Germany couldn't keep up with the Canadians. I mean, good on the Canadians for coming out and playing hard. You got to remember that Germany, obviously, this is their first game that they've actually played together as a team. So, and let alone shorthanded, not having enough players to play. They had 5 defensemen. And what was it? 12 forwards, something like that.
Forwards.
9 forwards,
5 defensemen.
Oh yeah, and not having your number one goalie either. I mean, it's going to be a hard tournament for them. They played well yesterday against Finland, like Kevin said, 5-3. I watched that game. That was it was valiant effort on that end, and then just falling flat tonight.
Yeah, they put up as good of an effort as you could have expected from them after playing against Finland last night. Playing with missing a whole forward line and a defenseman, let alone the extra forward and extra defenseman that gets dressed in these tournaments. So it's I was really impressed with Tim Stützle and JJ Peterka though. They really stepped up and they came hard and they were competing right to the bitter end. You saw the pride, like just the frustration and pride in Tim Stützle's face and body whenever they showed him, because he looked like he was just angry from playing in that, and it's just because it was just frustrating for him because everyone was giving it their all, but it's just when you're playing against probably one of the strongest Canadian teams in the World Juniors in years, and you're coming off of dealing with COVID and a short roster. They did the best they could. And I cheered big time when Florian Elias scored to make it 16-2.
Yeah, I on Stützle play on his play, I thought he played very well. I thought that that 2-on-1 at the beginning of the game, and Devin Levi decided to stick out, basically tear his groin to get across there. I thought that was an amazing save, and that could have been the game, a different game easily enough if they scored there too. Give a little bit of life to the German team, and I was very impressed with Stützle, and I'm really interested to see going forward whether or not he cracks Ottawa's lineup this coming shortened season.
Yeah, that'll be very, very interesting there as well. And yeah, Patrick showed a lot of heart too. And Buffalo has some prospects. I'm not saying they're getting anywhere, but Buffalo has some things going on that end as well. But I think the big story coming in to this turned out to be it wasn't one shift in, but it was pretty damn close to the first shift in, was Kirby Dach losing out for the tournament with the wrist injury. It is, Kirby Dach, Coach Andre Torgnay announced that Kirby Dach will continue to be listed as captain, although in IIHF rules, you need to have a captain on the ice, and today it will be between the alternates. Today it was Bo and Byram. It will be someone different every game. What did you think of these lines? It's hard to analyze this at 16-2, I guess, to really analyze the lines, but did you see anything that was like a little bit of, again, probably one of the dumbest questions to ask in a 16-2 game, but I'm going to ask it. Did you see any little concerns with sort of line combinations? Do you think that they've kind of found this, or do you still think that there's going to be some tweaking?
I really don't know. I saw a lot of sloppy play out there. The Germans were able to pick the pockets of the Canadian forwards a few times, and that's something that they really need to work on. Newhook looked really. Newhook and Cousins specifically looked good, and they're on the same line. So I think that's something to look forward to. But other than that, I think it was really tough to do any sort of. It's really tough to do any sort of evaluation, just because it was a bit of a clusterfuck for most of the game. Because how many goals did the German goalies assist on for Team Canada? There's at least 2. So it's just
was Mike Smith playing for goal for Germany?
But yeah, like I said, I thought Newhook and Cousins looked good together. And I believe Holloway's the other winger on that line. I think they're going to stick with that line for sure. Other than that, I think there's definitely room for shuffling around. Philip Tomasino looks good in short a short amount of ice time that he saw, and he was, I think, considered the 13th forward going into this game. So it's so tough to really do any sort of evaluation. But and then the defense pairings got all the whack as well, because Braden Schneider got kicked out of the game for a check to the head. So again, you're not really getting much idea on what the chemistry of the defense pairings are.
Yeah, it is hard to evaluate, especially the amount of focus that is lost in that game too. After, let's say, 5-1, it's hard to have that focus and have that determination and drive. And having that structure to your game when the game is already out of reach at that point, really. And yes, they scored a lot of goals, but at the same time, you really hope that the coaching staff after this game refocuses them, makes them understand that that the sloppy play can't continue. Because if they do continue this sloppy play, against the Finns, then that's going to be a big issue, because the Finns they can shove it back down your throat easily enough when there's sloppy breakdowns. Like you had Bowen Byron, he had a giveaway in the first period that led to that 2-on-1 where Levi did that amazing save on Stützle. And then, unfortunately, he tipped the puck into the net for their first goal, trying to block that shot. So there's little things here and there that they can improve on for sure. It's going to be. I know the coaching staff is going to be making sure that the focus is still there, that the systems are still going to be followed, even though they potentially don't have that big of an opponent coming up here tomorrow and 3 days from now too. So the coaching staff has their work cut out for them for the next little bit.
Andre Tourney was pretty on them on Team Canada yesterday, I believe, when they had practice. I think he stopped it 2 or 3 times. I believe was what TSN said, in terms of and was being very vocal about their work ethic and attention to detail. And attention to detail is going to be huge going through. Canada has blown teams out in the first game where they've scored more than 10 goals. I think 4 or 5 times, and I don't think they've won a gold medal in any of those tournaments. And part of the reason is until you start playing against the top teams, it's very tough to ramp yourself up and start playing at the level that you need to play against them. Playing against the Russians in the pre-tournament game was really good for them. I thought they played really structured and really well versus Russia in the pre-tournament game. But you never know how like Russia looked a lot different than in their game against the U.S. than they did versus Canada too. So teams evolve, and you need to keep evolving. And unfortunately, because of the way the schedule is, that Canada doesn't see a team that should be giving them any sort of problems until New Year's Eve versus Finland. And at that point, three games in, you're hoping that they haven't built up too many bad habits.
Yeah, I thought like Bowen Byram, couple of plays, like just very glaring things that left me a little bit concerned. Yeah, and again, yes, it's 16-2, and you're like, why are we nitpicking on this? But I do think, I have to say, like, looking at the schedule for Canada, I'm not sure if I'm a big fan. I would have rather have started with a high intense opponent than going the Germany, Slovakia, Switzerland route that they are going on, because it's just, it's going to develop those bad habits by the time you get to Finland.
That being said, Kev, like when they first came out with these schedule, Germany could have had Moritz Seider, like an absolute stud defenseman that they've had to play against, and it's just bad luck in terms of that. And you just got to, again, it comes down to how well the players and the coaches can keep the focus going and keep the attention to detail high, because if they don't, then when they come play Finland's one of those teams that's going to be relentless and going to check you into oblivion until you make a mistake. So it's going to be something that they have to be very, very cognizant of for the next 2 games, to make sure that when they do play Finland and beyond, because it doesn't really matter what happens in the Finland game other than seeding. Once they get into the quarterfinals and the knockout stage, they need to be on their game.
Yeah. So, I understand people 16-2. How can you say that they're not on their game? But it was just, I think, just looking at that from that perspective, there are things to work on there. I guess anything. I don't want to spend a heck of a lot of time on this game, really, because it's really hard. I guess the other thing that I think came up is this concept around the sportsmanship aspect of it. I think for me, I want to be honest. I'm pulling for Canada to win, but I really wanted this to be a close game. I was pulling for Germany to at least be competitive. That didn't happen. Kind of knew in the bottom of my pit of my stomach that wasn't going to happen, but that's okay. But I saw some tweets complaining, and you probably all did too, complaining about the running up of the score. How do you, from a Canadian perspective, we're so polite. It's like we should just stop at 10. Can we just stop at 10 and go home now? Like that's it. But what do you do here? Like,
we just talked about that they need to be focusing on details and playing the game the right way. And I don't think that Canada really ran up the score. They weren't. When I think of running up the score, I think of them taking the teams taking big chances and trying to make big fancy plays. Canada wasn't really doing that. None of those goals really screamed fancy play to me.
Was there a spectacular goal of the 16 today?
I think the best goal was either Newhook in the second period or Cousins, both before it became an absolute ridiculous route. But yeah, it's such a tough position to be in.
if people are lobbying for there to be a limit on goals, that is good. Like, do you know, or do you think that Tim Stützle would want to stop the game halfway through? No, these guys are all competitors. These guys are playing for their country, and they're the best in their country at their age group. How humiliating more would that be not finishing the game? I know that if I had the choice, I would want to finish the game, even though it ended up being 16-2. The people who haven't been in those situations, it's hard for them to understand the competitiveness. It's hard for them to understand the drive behind these kids. These kids came all the way over from Germany. And to tell them that, no, sorry, the home country is beating the crap out of you, and you're going to have to give up after a 10-goal deficit. I don't know. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. And it on the other hand, it just shows how good Canada is. Like there was no showboating. I think even before 9-1, they should have stopped doing the flyby, because it's 9-1 at that point. You know, if you want to be nitpicky about that, sure. But the whole competitive aspect of those kids wanting to finish the game, I know that every single one of them wanted to. Maybe not the goalie, but everybody else I know for a fact would want to finish that game.
Yeah, you're in a no-win situation at that point, because no matter what you do, you're good. Like, someone's not going to like it. You stop the game. Yeah, there's going to be Tim Stützle, JJ Peterka. Those guys are not going to like. They're going to be very, very angry that happened. If you keep it going and you still have that, you're still going to have that. So, like I said, I did not think Canada ran up the score or did anything anything bad. I think they just played the game, and there was a couple just shots that beat the goalie clean, and that shouldn't have, right? And it happened.
Once again, they're missing their best goalie too, the goalie that they were planning on starting. So
exactly, right. So it's just, but what are you supposed to do? Like, just pass around in the neutral zone and show up the Germans because you can pass around them, and you're not even giving up. You know what I mean? Going in and trying to score and play the hockey game, play the game properly. No, just go out and play the game. And if you score because you passed around and found a seam and you finished the play, fine. You took a shot from the top of the circle that beat the goalie clean. Okay. You pounced on a rebound and scored. Okay. It's just, I don't know. There's no right way to say what you can and can't do at that point, and what you should or shouldn't do. But in terms of how I've approached those games when it's been a blowout or whatever, you just focus in on the details and make sure that you're working hard. And if you end up making it worse, the score, well, that's just an unfortunate byproduct of being of playing the game the right way.
Well, sorry, Kev, just one other thing. Basically the entire team that is Team Canada has been drafted by a NHL team, and there's only 2 or 3 on Germany that have been drafted. So that speaks enough as it is.
Yeah. Well, but even from Germany, you want to, in those type of games, you do want to know who's going to be there fighting for you and who's going to give up, right? That's the other side of that. Like, you don't want to be part of those blowouts, and nobody enjoys them, but you learn a lot. You can learn a lot in those situations. So, we probably learned more about Tim. The Ottawa Senators probably learned a lot about Tim Stützle that they may have known or may not have already known from this game, even though it was a blowout, right? So, that, take that for what it's worth there too. He was continuing on and playing on, and that's the thing, I guess, that comes out of that. I don't think anybody was. I don't think that this was some sort of it wasn't like Brad Marchand was dropping it off to Patrice Bergeron and they banged it in. I mean, Phil Tomasino's goal, I literally think he was trying to hit the pad of the goaltender and he moved. He moved away from the post and that went in. So that's not what can you blame Tomasino for that? I mean, at that point it was 3-4-1 at that point. but I don't think he was even trying to score on that shot, and he scored. So, yeah.
And you can tell by his celebration too. He's just like, "Oh, well, that went in."
Yeah. And it's tough for them too, I think. Yeah, because they're, these kids haven't played a real game in at least 10 months, and this is what they get, right? So,
yeah.
The other thing is the Braden Schneider hit. It looks like he's probably, Bob McKenzie said he's going to get wouldn't be surprised if it's a 1-game suspension. I think that's pretty cut and dry. It was a headshot. That's 5 in a game. And
under the double IHF rules, yeah.
Yeah. So he'll probably be gone for 1 game, I would suspect.
Yeah. Well, I'm so torn on this because I want to be able to mitigate. We should be able to try and find ways to mitigate headshots and all that. But there's those hits like that one, where I feel like the head is more of a. It wasn't a drive-by like glancing hit headshot that was full on targeting a head. It just was a combination of Schumacher being a little bit shorter, having his head down a little bit, and Braden Schneider following through. I would love to see, and I know it's one of those like complete pie in the sky ideas that would never happen because they've already gone to the immediate 5 in a game for any sort of head contact. But I would love to see some. Would be much happier if there was some sort of step up, like a level below the 5 in a game, like a 2 and a 10. Like they give 2 and 10s for checks from behind. Like I would love to see. I think that makes more sense to me because I think there's the egregious full on targeted headshots that we definitely need to get out of the game, and then you also need to try and train these guys to not hit as high. But there's also ones where they're full body checks. It just happens to be the first point of contact was the head because of body positioning, and it's not the hit. It's not the person who got hit's fault. It's not anything like that. I just think it make more sense for me and in my mind that if you can go 2 and 10 for check from behind where you could potentially hurt that play could potentially really injure a player and end their career, then why can't you do a 2 and 10 for a shot to the head, but that's deemed to be incidental as opposed to a targeted shot?
Oh, okay, let me ask you a question though. Because he got up and went to the bench under his own power and just was shaken, but not out of the game. If he was laying there for a bit, would you be having this discussion?
That's a tough one, Kev, because I think that the result, what actually happens, and the impact of it of a hit on someone that does take a part as part of your assessment of what happened, and to say that you can't take that into effect and have to make this cut and dry effect doesn't make sense to me, because if like, was it, I think last night they had a game, someone got a 2 and a 10 for a check from behind, and what happens if that guy's laying on the ice, right? It's a tough position to be in. I just think that a 2 and a 10 would have made a lot more sense to me in that situation. Also, I think that part of the issue that with Schumacher is he got caught between another Schneider and another Canadian player too, and I think he got twisted a little bit and his neck got snapped a bit too. I just said under the rules they got it right. It's 5 in a game, and those are the rules. I just think that it's at some point we need if you're willing to give the refs a little bit of leeway on boarding and checks from behind, then you should be able to give them leeway on this.
Well, the reason I asked that, it was just because I do think that does change our perception. I mean, to me, to me, it was a headshot, but like, and I know that they call those, so I knew that was a penalty. And I mean, if he was down there for longer, I mean, I think my mindset would have went further on what I thought of the hit. I think, but
the Schumacher's a little shorter, right? So I don't know. I got into a couple of debates and arguments over this, and I just think it comes down to intent. And some of these, it's very easy to see whether or not he intended the hitter intended to hit the hittee in the head, and I don't think this was the case, based off of what I saw and what I know from playing the game and all that. Hockey's such a fast game. All it takes is a split second for the angles to change to a point where you've already committed to a hit and now you're screwed, right? And you're going to kick someone out for a split sec, a decision where with that, it's where I don't know. It's such a tough decision. Like I waffle back and forth, but I just think that there should be an intermediary step where if it's not a full-on targeted headshot and the player isn't injured, I think it too intense sends a very strong message. Don't do it without like removing a player from the game for what could have been just as close to a clean hit as possible. Because if, like I said, I don't know. I waffle back and forth.
It's a hard line to tightrope walk across. You're splitting hairs really, because you're that, like, I mean, there's so many brain injuries, there's so many head injuries. Like Sean and I know both have had concussions, and they are detrimental in some aspects, depending on how bad it is and what severity. And I remember one of mine. I didn't. It wasn't that big of a hit. It was my neck got kinked a bit, and the position changed as I got hit, and that was probably one of my most severe ones that I've gotten. So I agree with the II or the IIHF rule of a 5 in a game, because no matter what, whether or not it's intent or not, it is a hit to the head. And period, no matter if it's intent or not, player safety is number one, and it needs to be at the forefront, whether or not is in the intent of the player hitting the other player is there or not. I just feel like, and I can see the mid-ice checks going away, and just because of the potential for injury of them trying to get out of the way, and a knee-on-knee contact or hip-on-knee contact could happen. But I mean, when it comes to a head contact, you can't be too careful, because even though he seemed okay, I don't know, like if him getting a double hit with Holloway coming in after Schneider, that to me, you have to be careful, and you have to make sure that the players' safety is at the forefront of this.
Yeah, but if that's the case, then why aren't they giving 5 in the games for all the checks from behind?
Because that doesn't have to do with the head injury.
Neck
doesn't matter. There's variance in that, depending on how bad that checking from behind is, right?
There's variance on checks to the head too.
No, there's not variance on checks in the head. Checks to the head. Don't even start with me, man. Checks to the head. If anything happens to your head, man, you're done. You're done. Like I still have headaches from my concussions. I still have headaches, and I still have like Kaylin, my fiance. She was in just in a rec league, and now she cannot drive at night because of the neck injury that she has had, and it was very minor. So you can't tell me that no matter what, that check to the head, it varies. A check to the head is a check to the head. That is your livelihood right there.
Well, the way I look at it, Devin, is that I look at the ones that are the glancing blows that like twist the neck and everything like that are much worse. And then these ones where you get knocked back like this, like you got your head down, you get hit, and then it's a follow through. Like the shoulder goes chin to chest. I don't know. It's just like I said. I go back and forth, and I get both sides, and like I don't know. I always struggle with this because this is it's a physical game. It's what we love about this game is its brutality at times, and we need to do our best to mitigate and keep players safe and promote the skill and the absolutely stand up in your seat because someone's lost their jock in the Raptors because of a deke. But Devin knows more than anyone else that when I played hockey, I was I was short, but I was stocky, and I made my living like making hits like that. But I know that that's not the case. That's not good anymore, and we should be able to players should have to worry about their post career lifestyle as much as a lot of the older players do. But like I said, I don't know. I would prefer to see a 2-10. Like I said, I'm not saying it's a legal check. I'm just saying that I think 2-10 makes, in my mind, makes sense. But I completely understand why people are okay with and agree with and applaud the IHF for going full 5 in a game right away.
The other thing that happened with the IIHF, and it really, I mean, it's Canada, the only country that argues about a goal that they actually scored and if it should count. But really, actually, it based on what we saw, it shouldn't count, and that was the 4-1 goal that was late in the first. Peyton Krebs scored. We heard the horn, then Krebs scored. They went to review, and IHF determined that there was 0.2 seconds left when the puck went in. According to what TSN said, that their clock is right, and the WIHF was not. It's not a great look here. Unfortunately, to me, I think they got it wrong. Did it affect the outcome of this game? No. Does it affect goals for and against? Well, when you're at 16-2, it doesn't really matter, but still, it's not a good look. And it was confusing.
No, it's not. And the way I also didn't like the way TSN handled it. I think they passed the buck to the IHF. Like whether or not whoever had the right feed or whatever, it is besides the point. You got to find a way to get it right, and I don't know. I didn't like how they're like, well, we had it right. No, just say that there was an issue with the score clock and move on, and then try and help them fix it for the next game.
Yeah, TSN passing the buck. You're partners with the IIHF, and you need to back each other, not blame each other. Mm-hmm. And was it a blown call? Who knows whose clock was right? As far as our perspective that was not a goal. But if it did happen to be in an important game that meant something, all hell would break loose, and that's something that needs to be rectified going forward with when the games get more important. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to be a shit show if that does happen again. But at least the positive thing is that they figured it out now before it does actually matter.
At least it wasn't a camera in a gold medal game like last year.
Right. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Yes. Oh, last year. 2019. How we remember. I mean, really, I mean, I always saw in the NHL, it's when the green light goes on, that's when the end of the period is. Maybe that's something the future the World Juniors need to look at is when the green light goes on, that's the zero, and not as the right clock. Because, I mean, we all have different clock times. I mean, some people it's currently 6:34 here, and I bet you there's somebody somewhere around here that has 6:36 in Vancouver right now, right? So of course we're not all on the right sync here. So, but I do agree with you that TSN, the way TSN handled it, I didn't like that either. I didn't like them throwing I didn't like the it's not our fault aspect of that either.
I know they were trying to just explain what happened, but it came across to me as passing the buck. So
yeah.
But the other thing, Kev, with the green light is with all the replays. Are you going to be able to sync up when the green light went on with some like the overhead replay or say a net cam replay? Like you can't. You need to be able to sync up either the clock or the green light to what the whatever view of the replay is, angle the replay is, and sometimes you don't see the green light in that shot. Like I don't think there's no way you can see the end of period green light in that overhead shot.
You could add it to the video though if you really wanted to.
Yeah, like, but then why don't you just make sure that you've got the right time synced?
Yeah.
So, it's there was a technical difficulty. That's really all that happened tonight. And luckily, like I said, luckily it happened in a game where it didn't really matter. Although 15-2 doesn't sound too much better, but
yeah,
just
go ahead, Devin.
I'm good.
Okay. The other thing from this game, let's see if this works. Yes, we had a little bit of Star Trek in TSN's pregame show as the
beam me up, Duffy.
What's that? Beam me up, Dusty. As they had the hologram interviews, basically of Andre Tourigny and Bowen Byram. When I looked at it, it looked cool, but it looks weird, and I think it looks weird because the interview subject is looking like this, away from the actual. They were not looking at James Duthie and Bob McKenzie, and I thought it looked really weird. But I did understand what they were trying to do. It's innovative, but I do think it still needs work.
First time they've done it, it definitely needs some tweaks, but I love it. I think it looks great. When I first saw it, when I didn't even catch the beam me up Duffy moment for Andre Tourigny, I just saw him, but I was like, wait, they're allowed to get that close to the Team Canada's coach? That's weird. Okay, whatever. And then I saw Bowen Byram get transported onto the set, and his reaction when he got off, when the graphics fully formed was pretty good. He was like, "Oh, this is cool." But I like it. I think it's a great use of technology to make things look good on the production side of the broadcast, especially during right now when they can't go down and get the normal sort of walk off interviews by the bench or in the tunnel towards the locker room.
Well, it's weird though because Ryan Rishaug did interview a player during the intermission.
Yeah, they do, but like I said, they're trying something different, and I think it's one of those. I think is good for the pregame at this point because they're still trying to work out the kinks. But
yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was very creative, and there's little tweaks here and there that need to be tweaked, but overall, I quite enjoyed it.
And I think what they were trying to do is set him up so like it was kind of like he was sitting as part of the panel, but without the desk, it looked a little awkward in sort of that aspect because they couldn't have them sort of facing each other because it just wouldn't look good with the camera because you want to be able to see the face of whoever you're interviewing, whether it's Tourigny or Byram or whoever gets to get beamed up tomorrow before they play Slovakia. So it's a great addition. Just like as I said, it just needs a few tweaks here and there, and before it looks better.
Yeah. The only other thing I wanted to get into here quickly is the U.S. Russia game. Russia beat the U.S. 5-3 yesterday. Spencer Knight also paid tribute to Mike Smith with a very fantastic pass to a Russian player and his diving attempt to score. But he was pulled, and Dustin Wolf went the rest of the way, did not allow a goal, and is starting now as we speak against Austria. We talked about this before. I didn't think that they would. I thought that they would give Spencer Knight a bit more leash. Is this, if Dustin Wolf plays well, is this his net, or are we still on Spencer Knight here?
100%. I think it is Wolf's net. It's Wolf's net to lose as of right now. Spencer Knight has not shown like he is able to. He doesn't seem mentally there because he doesn't usually make those big mistakes that he has been. Having definites as of right now, I know I just said definitely, but I wouldn't actually be surprised if they tried him in one more game just to see how he does. If anything, I would give him one more chance against Austria to see how he does. But as of right now, I feel like Dustin Wolf, he's deserved to take the net from Spencer Knight and run with it. Really, he hasn't shown any real flaws in his game other than playing the puck a little bit too much. But other than that, I mean, him in between the posts, I feel like he's done a great job, and I think he deserves it.
I was pretty certain Dustin Wolf was getting this Austria game before the tournament even started. Back-to-back games. You just played Russia. You've got Slovakia in 2 days. Like I think, why am I saying Slovakia? The Czech Republic in 2 days. I wouldn't be. My guess is I think they go back to Spencer Knight versus the Czechs and see how he plays. But the leash is short. It is really short now. Like I think whatever length of leash Spencer Knight had he's now like full up right beside the being like he needs to step up and be the Spencer Knight that is a top end prospect to be able to get this net back, because if he shows any sort of wavering versus the Czechs, if he's given that start, they'll go right back to Dustin Wolf for the game against Sweden on New Year's Eve.
He played he was good, and Wolf played his style is very quiet, unlike Askarov, who is entertaining. I will say that Askarov is entertaining. Now, whether I think I like this I find him entertaining, but if I was like a goalie coach, I would have very little hair. I think that's the fairest way I could say with him. But very quiet. I think that's a good sign for the Flames and Dustin Wolf going forward. It will be interesting, and I do think it's a storyline that I think Flames fans are going to be interested in, and I think it's going to be one of the stories of World Junior, because we talked about Askarov and Knight being the two big goaltenders in this, and goaltending being important here. So,
yeah, like you said, I think the big story will be who starts versus the Czech Republic. If Dustin Wolf starts versus the Czech Republic, then that's huge. That means that it's his net for sure. But if they go back to Spencer Knight, I think they're going to go. That means they're going to make one more shot to step up his game and get back to the level that everyone knows he can be at. So it's definitely a story to watch for a couple days.
Anything else we need to talk about?
Just on a Leafs prospect note, Topi Niemela had another goal in his second game that he played. So once again, keep an eye out for him. Number 7 for Finland. He's pretty fun to watch. So just watch for him when Canada plays Finland, or if you're just watching any other games.
I thought Amarov was pretty solid last night for Russia.
Yeah. He was all right. He was better than the first game, that's for sure. But I'm still expecting that there's another gear or two there for him. At least as of right now, I hope there is.
Yeah. There's another gear for both him and Podkolzin. Colson in another very solid game with no actual like tangible results in goals and assists, but he still was he always seems to be making the smart plays out there. If you are wondering what a lot of people see in Podkolzin, including the Canucks and a lot of the internet scouts, just number 19, the captain of Russia. Watch him play a few shifts. Just focus in on him. You'll see how he makes. He's a really hard worker, but he also is a very smart worker and very smart player and makes smart passes. He's not as flashy a player as many of his teammates, especially. And he's not going to absolutely wow you out of your seat with some like insane skill, but he's going to work his butt off, make the smart passes, make the smart plays, and set the table for his line mates to create offense. I really hope that he's got another gear offensively, because if he does, then the Canucks have a very, very special player. But even if he doesn't, the Canucks have a very solid NHLer for years to come.
Yeah. All right, let's leave it there. How do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyCanucks03 on Twitter.
I'm Gordhouse09 on Twitter.
We have Heidi Amazeballs, Schneidz, SCHNEIDZ, Tyler T. Noble, our glove, if you will, T. Noble. I am KABOLE, podcast_hockey. Subscribe on iTunes, Apple, Google, Spotify. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube. Again, we have the Mark Messier number of subscribers, so I'd like to pump that up a little bit. We will be back tomorrow for I was saying Austria for some reason. I don't know why, but Canada is playing Slovakia tomorrow, and we will be back to recap that. Hopefully it's a little bit of closer game, but we don't know. We'll see.
See how good Marco Rossi looks versus the Canadian team.
Yeah, but it's Slovakia.
You're right. I don't know who's on Slovakia. Kevin, you're screwing me up. Kevin.
It's Austria. I know that. I screwed myself up. All right.
Thanks, Kevin.
Anytime. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.